ones, you know, that life, living the dream right here in Fort Myers. So, yeah, a little bit about me. I was a teacher for 20 years, stopped teaching and went to something a little different. And I've been a coder probably for 10 years. I have my own company, Comprehensive Coding Solutions, and I do coding, medical coding, which that's what I'm trying to help you all learn here today, how important it is for you all to know, right? Let's see. We're going to be here for 4 hours. The first hour is like a very general overview of the field, and there's some big things coming down the pike for coding. And then the second hour is a little more, and then the third and fourth hour are very intense with what we're going to learn. And I brought handouts and goodies for you all, but that's for the second 2 hours, all right? Anyone here know a medical coder, know a medical biller? Yes. Mom, dad?
In the office I used to work at.
Okay.
She was always stressed out.
I'm sorry?
She was always stressed out.
No, actually, teaching was a more stress to me than this, okay? So no, but it is very stressful because it's on you as far as the money.
Right. She used to get yelled at a lot.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful. I'll talk to you about some horror stories that I've heard in the field. So this is good. A little bit about me. I am from Bel Air, Maryland. Okay, where are you from?
Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay, we're in Baltimore.
Reisterstown.
Okay, Reisterstown. Where else? Who else?
No one.
Somebody else? No one. It's raining, and it's opening day today for the Orioles. It's raining. My husband, I called him. I'm like, it ain't raining here. Sorry. So, of course, it is opening day for the Baltimore Orioles today. And the American League East champions, I might add. Okay? And, of course, we've got the Ravens.
Let's go Skins.
Okay. Okay. All right. But actually, I'm a Dolphins fan because I was born in Winter Park. I was born in Winter Park. I'm a Floridian. Why I live in Maryland? It's not going to be much longer. I want you to know that. You know, it drives me nuts. So actually, I live right up here, about 30 minutes from the Pennsylvania line. I'm about an hour and a half from D.C., 30 minutes from Baltimore, and an hour from Philadelphia. Okay, and so Maryland, it looks like it's this little part. It looks like a frying pan a little bit. Okay, and Maryland it's got mountains here. It's got the beach here. Of course, it's got the bay. Of course, all the seafood we're very much known for. All right, and then in the middle is a lot of farmland and horse country. So it's sort of like American miniature in our state. Okay, there's a lot of snow, so don't get too enamored with it. Okay, so. We had the coldest February since 1934. It was miserable. I don't even want to talk about it. So anyway, our horse industry here, the second leg of the Triple Crown is run in Baltimore, Pimlico. All right? And so, of course, we have the Ravens now, but the Indianapolis Colts used to be the Baltimore Colts because of our horse industry. All right? And of course, right here, Babe Ruth was born in our town. And in fact, Babe Ruth's father had a bar that was built right where second base is at Camden Yards. Okay? And this right here, anyone know? Anyone?
That is...
The Star Spangled Banner was written in Baltimore's harbor in Fort McHenry. All right, so that's a little bit of history. I know Professor Patch loves the whole history thing. Of course, I'm a big history fan too. So just a little bit about Baltimore and Maryland. All right? Okay. All right. So here's our outline for the class. We're going to do a lot of it right away, and then the middle section is the second hour, and then the third and fourth hour are the bottom. Okay? So that is it. All right. Coding. Why is it, and what is it, and why is it important? Okay. So basically, I take the medical record that you all produce, and I assign codes, both diagnosis codes and procedure codes. And those codes are submitted electronically to Medicare, Blue Cross, Aetna, all the insurance companies, and they go out the door, hopefully clean, and come back with payment to you. The maximum reimbursement that you are entitled to, okay? So getting a claim out clean, so there are certain modifiers that have to be used, certain insurance companies want certain codes versus other codes. The diagnosis code has to be lined up correctly so it'll get, this procedure paid, all of those kind of things, that's what a coder does, okay? And also, to keep you all compliant, because the bills going out with your MPI number on it, or your physician's MPI number on it. And so if it's going out incorrectly, then that's potential fraud. You're either gonna have to A, pay back money, B, go under a corporate integrity agreement and really get slapped on the wrist by the government, okay, legally, okay? So all this is on the radar, and we're gonna talk a lot about that, all right? Coders, so basically coders help providers get paid, and coders help providers be compliant, basically stay out of jail, okay? Okay, so it is a very important thing with what we do, right? All right. And we use certain books or coding software. The ICD-9 CM, that's for your diseases. Has anybody heard about the I-10 debate that's going on right now in Congress? Okay, we're going to talk about that. ICD-10, we're in the ninth revision. ICD-9, the 9th clinical modification. Europe is in 10. Europe is going to be going to 11. We haven't gone to 10 yet. 11 builds on 10, and 10 is a big difference from 11. Huge, like, it's a huge philosophical difference on how the coding is done. Okay, and hospitals already have spent a lot of money getting up to speed for I-10 to transition October 1st, 2015. It was supposed to be October 1st, 2013. It was delayed. It was supposed to be October 1st, 2014. It was delayed. And now Congress is debating next week the delay again. And if it's going to be delayed again, it'll be 2 years. And see, you're going to be hitting rotations. If it does come October 1st, you're going to be hitting rotations right during that time. Okay? So we're going to talk about the debate, because right now, we're supposed to be going to I-10 October 1st, but I really don't, I have my doubts, because the AMA is against it. The physicians aren't ready. In fact, I don't know that everybody is completely ready, and we're going to talk a lot about that right now, all right? And so CPT, that's not going to change, okay? CPT book, okay? This is what it looks like, all right? And that does all your procedures, splints, colonoscopies, meniscectomies, sutures, all that kind of stuff. It's in the CPT book. Anything that's done to a patient in the outpatient or ambulatory surgery, it's in that book. All right, and Hicks picks. Whoops. Hicks picks. That's for drugs, durable medical. A lot of that is done in the office. If your office provides the drugs for an injection, you do a Hicks picks code to get reimbursed for that drug, because they have to pay for the drug, right? Okay. Right now, okay, we're going to talk a little bit about I-10. I-10. It's going to come 2015 October 1st. We're under six months out. Last year it was postponed March 31st. Here we are, April 10th. And it's passed through the House, you know, the Sustainable Growth Reform Act, the SGR, whatever, anyway. They want, for the last, I don't know how many years, they put a Band-Aid on it every year for the physicians. The physicians are supposed to get their fee schedules reduced. Then Congress puts a Band-Aid on it, passes it through, basically kicking the can down the road. Well, supposedly the bill that's going through the House already is more of a permanent fix for the physician, okay? And they have piggybacked I-10 on that and saying there will be no more delays of I-10. Okay, now the Senate is going to take up the bill next week. That's why I could not update your slides whether we're going to I-10 or I-9. So that's why we're talking about this, because like I said, it's vague right now what's going to happen. Okay, if we do go to I-10 by May 1st, I think we'll be much more comfortable with where we are. If we do go to I-10, I'm going to redo some slides, and I'm going to send them to Professor Patch, and she's going to send them to you all. Okay, we're going to talk about the debate, but there's no sense in me talking too heavily about I-10 if it's not going to come. And I have enough doubt that I think it might be delayed again. Okay, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about the debate. So from what I hear, the Senate doesn't like the bill that's out. They're going to start debating it next week, the week of the 12th, next week. And I think it's going to go back to committee. Okay, it's going to go back. And so it could be delayed. The delay could be pushed through on another bill. That's how it was last time. It was just put through on another bill. It's going to be delayed. Boom. Surprise. And millions of dollars has been spent to go to I-10 by the hospitals. But the physicians have to bear the brunt of the change themselves, because the codes are not just 5-digit numeric, they are 7-digit alphanumeric, okay? And the level of, well, here, Here's a good example. Right now, this is the diagnosis codes. In I-9, there are 14,000. We're going to close to 70,000 codes, okay? And I-9 procedure codes, which you don't really have to worry about because that's an inpatient coder for a hospital. They're going from 4,000 to 71,000, okay? And a difference between a PCS code could mean the difference of thousands of dollars to a hospital. Let me give you an example. When you code for a hospital, an inpatient stay, somebody stays there, for several nights, that's an inpatient stay. So basically the coder has to look over all the record, pick out all the stuff that was done, all the different diagnoses, all the different procedures that were done, surgeries, bedside procedures, it doesn't matter. Okay, and they have to put them on the bill. And then they run them through a coding software on your computer, which is run by 3M, the sticky company. They have coding software. Has anybody had their hands on 3M coding software? Okay, well, it's a very expensive program, and all hospitals have it, and I have it loaded on my computer as well. But anyway, and so what you do is you put all the diagnoses in there and all the procedures in there, and you push a computer, and it comes up with a DRG. And a DRG is a diagnosis-related group, and the hospital's paid on that. Each DRG is weighted, based, and the hospital gets paid on the resources used for that DRG, okay? So if somebody comes in and they're very sick and they stay for a very long time and they use up lots of resources, the DRG is weighted higher so that they get reimbursed for that. And that is what they should be reimbursed for, because you're being reimbursed for the utilization of hospital resources. Okay, so the company that like I said, I own my own company, but I do contract out, and the company I contract out for has Hopkins contracts, Johns Hopkins. All inpatient stays at Johns Hopkins are under 2 reviews, meaning the Hopkins coder codes it, and the company that I subcontract with, they look at every hospital record again and recode it, okay? Now, the Hopkins coder missed the bone marrow injection, okay? The ACE coder, that's the company I work with, Auditing and Coding Experts, ACE, they picked it up. It made the difference to the DRG of $75,000, one code. One code. The hospital got more money because the first coder missed it, the second coder got it. One code, okay? So it's very important that you document correctly so that the coder can pick up what's needed so that the hospital gets reimbursed. And your records, if you do work for a hospital, your records will be scrutinized by CDI people, clinical documentation improvement specialists. They're nurses and doctors. They will be scrutinizing your notes because the coder is at the mercy of your notes to be able to pick up everything. And it's in the financial interest of the hospital to pick everything up because, like I said, that one particular code meant the difference of $75,000, okay? So herein is the debate. We're going from 18,000 to 141,000 codes if I-10 should occur, all right? Why go to I-10? Okay, because I-10 is five digits alpha, it's just numeric, whereas I-10 is 7 digits alphanumeric. And because there is no need, the I-9 book you can't capture new disease processes because of the, it can't like expand so much. So we have a lot of unspecified codes, and they're not picking up the disease processes. And see, who owns the I-9 and the I-10 codes? The World Health Organization. And what is it for? It's for statistical purposes, okay? Why is Europe into I-10 and going to I-11? Because they have socialized medicine. Their coding is not for reimbursement. Our coding is used for reimbursement here in America. Whereas in Europe, their coding is used for statistics, okay? Because everything gets paid, right?
What are they using for reimbursement?
It's socialized. They get reimbursed, but it's not done by coding.
Right. There's some kind of documentation that says.
Well, they document.
Done, right?
Yeah, they document, and it's coded, but it's coded so that the World Health Organization can keep track of how many of this and how many of that. And that's why we have to go to I-10 supposedly for that purpose, so that we're up to speed with everybody else. But the physicians are balking because, like I said, the hospitals are bearing the brunt of the finances of getting the coders up to speed and the IT systems and training the physicians. But a doctor's office, he doesn't have the resources. Okay, here we go. Here it is. The cost to physicians is staggering. The implementation of I-10 is estimated to cost $83,000 for a smaller practice and $2.7 million. Who's paying that? The doctor does.
Why does it cost so much?
Because you've got to train the coders, retrain the coders. Okay, because like I said, it's a huge thing. Okay, and they've got to update their system because it's alphanumeric, up to 7 digits. And a lot of the software that they have to send their bills electronically can't handle that. Okay, because we've never had to do.
$83,000 for software.
No, well, to train coders, and yeah. And so the AMA is continuing its opposition even now. Okay, and I'll tell you how serious this is. CMS last year, before the delay of last year, and I think it's still on their website even now, they are cautioning physicians to go get a line of credit. Why? Because the bills are going to stop going October 1st. And it could take a while for everything, all the bugs to be worked out. Okay, for claims to go out, for things to come back being paid, so the physician has to pay his rent, pay his PAs, pay his nurses, pay his office staff. They're telling the physicians to go get a line of credit. Now you can understand why physicians are scared of this. Because you go several months without getting paid, the physician's got to take it out of his own pocket. Yep.
So you said most of Europe was already on starting the 11 version?
Well, they're in I-11 now.
So did they just bite the bullet and go through all of this pain, or did they go through a different process? Like why were they as hesitant?
Yep, and they don't have to submit for reimbursement. It has everything to do with reimbursement here. Okay, that's what the hang up is. That's why the hospitals have spent so much money to get the doctors ready so the documentation matches the specificity of the I-10 codes. All right, so all right. For the orthopedic surgeon, there are 12 I-9 codes for femoral and head and neck fracture. In I-10, there are 576 codes, just for that one fracture alone. Because a lot of it is right, left. I-10 is going to document laterality. I-10 is going to document, is this the initial or subsequent encounter? That's all captured in the code now. Whereas now it is not. Okay? I code a femoral head and neck fracture. I don't say whether it's the first visit or the second visit. I don't say whether it's the right or the left. I don't now, okay? Is this routine healing or delayed healing, non-union or malunion? They're all different codes now for all the different fractures. The injury section of I-10 is huge because every fracture has all of these different subsets, yes.
Oh, for the initial and subsequent encounters, is that only for ortho or is that going to be for everything?
It's for everything. Like somebody comes in for an ER visit, I'm gonna have to say that. Is this and then, how it happened. Okay, here's another one. Like right now, if E-codes tell how something happened. Okay, they're important to insurance companies. Okay, because if there's a liability issue, they want to know how it happened and where it happened. Did it happen at work? Did it happen at a store? Because they're gonna go after the store. Okay, for the bill. Okay, so right now we have an E-code for falling off a playground piece of equipment. Just fall off a playground. Okay, which happens to every kid in America pretty much, okay? And so now, in I-10, I'm gonna have to specify, was it the slide? Was it the monkey bars? Was it the swing set?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
Therein lies all the documentation that you're gonna have to write down, okay? And so that I can pick up the codes, right? I know, it's quite a burden. It's a burden on you, it's a burden on the coder, but it's definitely a burden on you because you're gonna see less patients. Okay, because I'm talking to physicians now, and they work a full day, then they come home, and they're finishing up their documentation at home, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. They're writing their notes, they're finishing up their notes, dictating. And that's less time with the patient. It's a mess. Why are we going to I-10 for the capturing of statistics? Is it worth it? To me, I say no. And most physicians will say no, obviously. But the hospitals are gung-ho going forward. It's because the money is sort of endless with them. But I feel for the physician. All right? All right. I-10 will put more of a burden on your documentation skills, okay? And then here's the caution. Here's the caution. I-10 is going to go to multiple, things like this. This is an example. Multiple severity of certain illnesses, like asthma, severe, asthma, mild, asthma. There's all these and we fear that as the I-10 settles down and everybody gets used to everything, the insurance companies are gonna put into place certain things where they're gonna pay less for certain diagnoses than other diagnoses based on the severity of the patient, okay? As the industry grasps the implications of the increased code set, they might involve greater payment for more complex and lower payment for less complex, right? Coding productivity standards will forever be changed. So basically, if I can code 25 ER records an hour, as soon as I-10 hits, I'm gonna be at least half that, okay? But yet, there's still gonna be 25 records an hour to be coded, so they're gonna have to hire more coders, okay? So the burden is gonna be on the physician as well. In the physician office, if you hire coders, it's gonna take longer to do your job, so you're gonna have to hire more, right? And then there'll be a permanent decrease of 15 to 20%. So at the level we are now at coding, it's gonna drop 50%, and then after a year or two, when everybody gets used to the code sets and everything is, all the documentation bugs are worked out, we're still gonna have a complete decrease of about 20%, okay? But the visits are still gonna be there. We're gonna have to hire more coders, yeah.
Will that increase the price of the procedures?
Well, you're at the mercy of what Medicare, the fee schedule, and Blue Cross, what they wanna pay. So you can't, the physician can't say, well, unless it's a self-pay, you can charge whatever you want on a self-pay person. But really, you're at the mercy of the contract that you sign with an insurance company. Like your practice will sign a contract with Blue Cross or whatever, and those rates are set. And if you don't submit the codes correctly, you can get less than what you want. We're going to talk about examples of that, right? But Medicare sets the fee schedule, the physician fee schedule, and right now, as it stands, right now there's going to be a 20% decrease in the fee schedule unless this SGR patch goes through, okay? And what they're saying is they're going to say the law, the bill that just went through the House, that's the Senate's going to vote on, it's a 5%, a 0.5% increase for the next 5 years, and then after that, it's going to be a hold for 7 years. And the physicians aren't going to go for that. The AMA is not going to go for that. I'm sorry. I mean, 5%, 0.5. I mean, it's worse than. I mean, it's called inflation. The physicians aren't going to go for that. And the AMA is a really strong lobby. So like I said, I'm skeptical enough that this is going to be delayed again. That's why I didn't go full bore on I-10 for you. I'm talking to you about the debate. I'm talking to you about what's at stake. I'm talking to you about what potentially could be coming. But I'm not teaching you I-10 today because I think it's going to be delayed. Okay? But like I said, I'll know more in a couple weeks. Yes?
At what point, can they stop delaying it? I mean, because I know, when I was working in a physical therapy clinic, we were all set for it to roll out last October.
That's right.
And I think even a year before that,
That's
they were
right.
getting ready for it. So how long can they keep doing that for?
Well, what they're saying right now is if it's delayed now, it's going to be a 2-year delay to 2017. And I'm reading all the coding blogs and everything, and they're saying basically it's going to kill it. Because it's sort of like the boy who cried wolf. Every physician's going to say, yeah, right, we're going to go into, and they're not going to prepare. And then it'll be, it's all about the money. And the healthcare is what, 1/5 of our economy? You want to screw with 1/5 of our economy? I'm sorry. I mean, that's not good. You know? Especially when your whole paycheck is involved. It ain't good, is it? I mean, really. So I'm like, a lot of coders love this. I'm not, it's not that I don't know it, I do know it. I've been certified in I-10. I've had to pass recertification and take classes and all. I'm good with that, I can do it. But at what benefit is it? The risk over the benefit? Just so that we can capture whether they fell off a swing set or a sliding board? I don't get that. I just don't get, I don't get the risk to you all, I don't get the risk to our economy, I don't get the problem with it, yeah.
I mean, this might be not so valid point, but would it be too much work to code it in ICD-9 for our billing purposes and in reimbursement, but then somehow also have it in ICD-10 just for the statistical?
Oh yeah, there's talk of that too, but it's I-9 and I-10 is not a 1-for-1. okay? If it was, it would be so much easier, but you're going from 14,000 to 7, you know, yeah. So basically, one code in I-9 could code out to like 15 codes in I-10. Yeah, and you're right, and there is talk of dual coding right now, and that's what some of the hospitals are gearing up to now, so that the coders can code it in I-9 so we can get out the door, but practice in I-10. So some hospitals are saying, okay, we're gonna dual code once a week, so that the coders can get used to what needs to be written down. And if there's a problem, then they go back to the doctors and say, hey, you're not writing it the way we need it written, so we can choose the right code. And it's going to be a re-education of you all as well. That's why CDI, the clinical documentation improvement people, are involved right now to help get everyone's documentation up to speed so that it passes I-10, right? All right. Physicians already spend 22% of their time in non-clinical paperwork. This time will only increase as the diagnosis codes set jumps from 76 to 69,000. There will need to be more time spent doing your paperwork and less time with your patients. You can see there's a problem. I have a problem with that. I just do. I have a real burden for physicians. That's why my company works mostly with physicians. I work with hospitals as far as, the contracting company I work with, but really my burden is for the physicians. He's like a small business, and he's got a lot of overhead. This is only going to increase it. And I sit talking with physicians as far as with documentation and how they can improve it, and I do audits of them and this and that, and they say the same thing. I go home and I do paperwork. I go home and I'm typing on the computer. And I feel for the guy. I feel for him, and I say, I know, I feel your pain, yeah.
I was a scribe before I came here.
Right.
And the physicians in the ER basically convinced the hospital to hire us so that they could spend more time with the patients.
I know.
But after a year and a half, the hospital eliminated all the physicians. Even though we didn't make much, they didn't want to pay us that. So they had to go back to basically doing all their paperwork at home.
Yeah.
Or coming in on their days off into the ER and sitting there for 3 or 4 hours.
And a lot of the doctors are older, and they're not as like technologically savvy as you all are, the younger generation. I mean, truly, you guys are whizzes. And they're used to writing soap notes on paper. And now they're having to type, and they're not impecking like, oh, get out. I'm like, oh my goodness, how in the world do you handle Epic? So, and it's really a shame. And so they're gonna see less patients, and the patients are still gonna be there. And so I see my one doctor, he says to me, and there's all these screens that come through Epic. Is anybody familiar with the Epic software that's out there in hospitals now? And all these screens that come through Epic, and all the hyperlinks that you have to look at and answer all these questions to go to the next screen. And he's like, none of this has to do with anything with how I treat you. It's all statistical stuff. So.
Why aren't they integrating the ICD-9 or 10 codes into the program that, like, as you're going through answering all those questions, why isn't it, like, as you answer the questions, why isn't it applying codes?
Well,
that would make sense to me from a programming standpoint.
Yeah, but in hospitals,
program that does it all.
Right. Well, in hospitals, the Epic does do that. It'll have the codes, but a lot of times the codes aren't. You still need a coder because a lot of times they'll pick a code that can't be coded with another code. You see, okay. So that's a problem. Okay, as far as from a coding standpoint, that's a problem. But what physician practice has the money for that? You see. They don't have the money for those for hospitals, the burden has been less. But I do have to say that, have you noticed that a lot of hospitals are bundling with other hospitals to create health systems? And that's the way it's going to be for physicians too. They're going to have to go in groups. It's just, it's so that they can share the burden of everything.
Or hire out companies like you.
Or hire me.
Hey.
You all get my business card, don't worry. Okay, and so basically you have to understand, as a coder, I can't assume anything. I'm not the clinician, you are. Okay, and what little I know, okay, has to be coming from your documentation, and then I have to take the documentation and clinically change and put the code on that matches what you all said. Okay, so if you don't document it, it didn't happen, and I can't code it. You can miss reimbursement. We're going to talk a lot about that in the second hour, right? Documentation must be legible, okay? With a lot of the electronic records, that's not so much of a problem, okay? Avoid clone notes. Okay, what I mean by that is your notes all shouldn't look the same, okay? If Medicare comes walking on your door, knocking on your door and wants to see your records, they shouldn't all look the same, okay? That protects you, right? So, and another thing that a lot of these electronic softwares are doing is they're copying and pasting forward the notes from the prior visit over. And then the software is using that volume of documentation to assign a code when that wasn't even done this visit. You see the problem there, okay? We're gonna talk about that the third and fourth hour, okay? Code, all tests must have medical necessity to be ordered. So basically, if you're gonna order a wrist x-ray, you better have wrist pain on there. Obviously, or the wrist x-ray is not gonna get paid, obviously, okay? So that's what I mean by that, medical necessity. Code of chronic condition is often as applicable to the patient's treatment. Person comes into the hospital, code everything that you're managing. You're managing their diabetes, you're managing their, their history of cancer or whatever if they're coming in for certain things. We've got to code all of that, all right? In the absence of a confirmed diagnosis, you can code the signs and symptoms on outpatient. So there's a difference between outpatient coding and inpatient coding. The mindset is different, the rules are different, okay? So if somebody comes into the ER with abdominal pain and you run all of the tests you need to run, the CT scan, all the labs, blah, 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 and you can't figure it out, it's not gallbladder, it's not appendicitis, it's not whatever the heck it is, okay? They have ab pain. They walk out the door, abdominal pain. That's what I'm coding, abdominal pain. That's a sign and symptom. You've ruled everything else out, right? Sign and date the notes or addendums, right? Coders and providers sometimes speak different languages. To a coder, things mean a certain way, different than what you all would think. All right, history of. Okay, so here, this is what you all will say. 69-year-old female comes into the office with a history of hypertension, diabetes, and hyperlipidemia, complaining of abdominal pain. Now, you've just used the word history. To a coder, history means no more. It means done. But you mean they still have it, because I looked down and they're on lisinopril, and they're on a statin or something. I'm like, okay, this is not a history. So get that, just understand that we're going to speak this little bit different language. This is what this is how a coder would understand that, okay? 69-year-old lady who comes in with lymphedema, history of breast cancer, status post-mastectomy. That's a history code. She's history of breast cancer. Done. That's a V code, V10.3. Absence of breast, V whatever. I can't remember that one off the top of my head. Okay? Do you see? To a coder, that means done. Mastectomy, done. Okay? Whereas if you're saying history of breast cancer, chemo, you're still on chemo. That's not a history. I'm coding that as prime cancer still. Even if you've done the mastectomy, she's still under treatment for that cancer, 1749. Not a V code, not a history code. Do you see the difference in the way we talk? All right? Acute urosepsis, that's another one. Urosepsis to a coder, codes out as UTI, flat out UTI. But that's not what you mean potentially. You mean maybe potentially sepsis with urinary tract, cause. Okay? That's a big difference than a simple UTI. Okay? But, so I sat across from a doctor, and he's one of the best ER doctors in Baltimore. He's one of the top docs that comes in. And he's a whiz, but his documentation's horrible. Okay? But clinically, you'd want him touching you any day of the week because he's really good. He just doesn't write it all down. Okay, remember, what was it? If it isn't documented, it didn't happen. I need him to document this so I can figure out what the heck went on. Okay? So, I sat there and I said, look, Dr. Bessett, if you mean sepsis with urinary tract, say sepsis, UTI, and I'm going to grab it all. If you say urosepsis, I'm going to grab UTI. He says, well, that's stupid. So, of course, clinically to him, that's what it meant, but not to a coder. And that's like I said, there are multiple examples of that kind of stuff where clinically it makes sense, perfect sense to you, but to a coder it makes no sense, okay? Because we've got to go by how it looks up in the book, right? Acute versus chronic. Please specify if it's acute, okay? Acute bronchitis, just don't say bronchitis, say acute bronchitis, because it's a different code. If you say bronchitis, it's going to code to chronic bronchitis. Chronic or unspecified, it's 490. Whereas if it's acute bronchitis, which is what they're there for in the ER, 4660. It's a difference in code, okay? MVA is clinical impression. I love that one, okay? They came in with the MVA, and you did tests, they had some pain somewhere, and you're gonna tell me it's an MVA. At the end, clinical impression. Don't say that. Say, you know, wrist pain, fracture ruled out. That's fine. I'll code, what am I gonna code? Wrist pain, because it's gonna get that x-ray paid. And then I'll code the MVA. Okay, how, you know, whether he's the passenger or the pedestrian or the driver, that kind of stuff, all right? So try not to use that, okay? Injury versus sprain and contusions, okay? If you're not gonna tell me it's a sprain or a contusion or a fracture, I'm gonna have to code this unspecified injury of the wrist, which the reason why I'm harping on all these kind of things, these vague things, is because a lot of insurance companies don't like these vague codes, and they don't pay them. You understand? And if you want to get your procedures paid, the procedures get paid based on the diagnoses being matched to the procedure appropriately. So if you've got these vague diagnoses, like unspecified this and unspecified that, then a lot of insurance companies will be like, ain't paying that. And in I-10, there's a definite risk of that. Because of the specificity of all the different codes, the insurance companies are going to say to you, well, that's why we went to all these codes. We want the specificity. And that'll be the perfect excuse for them to say, we're not paying. And then you're going to go to battle, okay? Now, I hate to say it, it's sort of like this adversarial relationship. The doctor wants to get paid, and the insurance company's trying to do everything else they cannot to pay. It's like this big game we play, all right? And so you got to jump through their hoops, and a lot of times it's horrible. A lot of times I get on these websites of some of these companies, Aetna and Blue Cross, and it's hard for me to figure out what the heck they mean. They do that on purpose, I think, so that the physicians are out to lunch, and then they're trying to submit things and they don't get paid. And if they don't have office staff or coders or AR people to really catch that, those things get lost and you never get paid. I'm working a contract right now where I'm working for, okay, basically in Baltimore there is a Hopkins. All hospitals are either in like Hopkins, the University of Maryland, LifeBridge, MedStar. It's like these 4 conglomerates of all the different hospitals. Well, I'm involved in this one job where I am looking at edits, things that were either rejected from an insurance company, or things that didn't get out the door cleanly. There's a problem. It needs a modifier. The diagnosis doesn't match for the procedure, stuff like that. Okay? And I've got to figure out what's wrong so that we can fix it. Because guess what? That $3,000 is still sitting there in that account. It's not getting paid unless I look at it, or somebody looks at it, systematically looks at it. That's money lost, gone.
How long is it till they expire?
Well, every insurance company is different. Like,
Okay.
Like for Medicare it's like 18 months.
Okay.
But for other companies, it might be, what, 90 days? You're past timely filing at that point. And I'm looking, I'll tell you right now, I've got a stack at home on my desk. Oh my gosh, and in the office there's like about 10 stacks of this. And I'm looking at services back in November. Well, what date are we right now? You know? And some of it is, well, they coded a new patient visit when they've seen them in the last 3 years, so it should be an established visit patient. Stuff like that. And like I said, coding is not that difficult, okay? You could do it easily. But you all have so much under your plate, it would behoove you to hire a coder, okay? It would, because the coding rules change so much and each insurance is so different, you all don't need to be worried about that kind of stuff. Just you do your job, hire a coder, and the coder will make up their salary easily. The first coding job I had, there was 2 coders. We worked for a physician group that was the ER code. It was an ER physician group, and it was a very high acuity ER. 60% of the patients that came through the door were either level 4, 5, or critical care. 25% of the patients were admitted. This was a high-end ER. Okay, they just didn't see contusions and stitches. They saw strokes and chest pain people. All right, 2 coders, me and Jess. Outside of 2 years, we made that practice $1.6 million above what they had made. 2 years. Wow. In their pocket money. Not billed money, in their pocket money, because they were undercoding prior to hiring 2 coders that could stay on top of all of that, all right? And meet with them and try to talk to them and try to teach them how to document so it matches these codes so that we can get you the money that you, not illegitimate money, legitimate money, money that you've earned, money that you, you know, that you've done the service for, right? And see, a lot of doctors have these big billing companies where they just take their notes and it just goes to these big billing companies, and the big billing companies bill out and stuff comes back. They get some money, but stuff comes back. And who's going to systematically go through and figure out, well, why was that rejected? So that we can teach and don't do it again that way. Well, okay, Aetna wants that kind of modifier on that procedure. Good, let's write that down. Okay, so the next time that goes out the door cleanly and comes back. But some of these billing companies don't, these big billing companies don't have the resources to comb through all of those things. So basically, it's like a screen. It's like a net. They catch the big stuff, and whatever falls through, they just let it go. And you've done the service, and you won't get paid for it. Okay? I'll give you an example. My daughter works for a cardiology group. Okay? The biller, and I'm assuming she's not a coder, but she's a biller, for 5 years did not bill echocardiograms over $100,000. They need to call me in for an audit. I'll tell you that right now. Because what else are they missing? What else? 100,000 plus? Plus. It's like plus. I'm like, oh my gosh. Give me a piece of that. You know? Tell me. That's what I'm saying. You know, when you get out there, you know, like, you know, I speak at Fort Lauderdale, I speak at Orlando, and I speak here. And I have people come up to me. And people follow me on Facebook because I have a Facebook page for my company and I give coding tips. So, you know, they tell me things. What I just gave you, the example that I just gave you, is not unusual. Okay? If these physicians would understand the money that they're losing, a lot of them have their wives do the coding or whatever. You know, and I had one lady, I had one wife of one of the OB guys call me and said, now where do you put the modifier at again? Hello? You don't know which code the modifier goes on? Are you getting even paid for that? Do you even know? So that's what I'm saying. Hire a coder or hire a coder to come in and audit records and say, hey, you can do a better job this way or whatever. Believe me, it'll be worth your money. All right? All right. Accelerated hypertension. Accelerated hypertension in the I-10 to a coder means malignant hypertension. But you might not mean malignant hypertension. You might mean they have hypertension, they got a call that their son was in a car wreck, and their hypertension got a little out of control, and they got a headache, and they came to the ER, and here you gave them a little bit of whatever the drug is, and you sent them home, right? Malignant hypertension means you're admitting them. See, but accelerated hypertension codes to malignant hypertension, and I don't like that, okay? So, accelerated hypertension means something different to a coder. Metastatic cancer, that's a big one. Oh man, I hate that. Because it's just like, okay, is it metastatic? Is it the prime and it's metastatic to this place? Or is it metastatic cancer coming from somewhere else? Okay, so if you say metastatic brain cancer, okay, what was that? History of colon cancer 5 years ago and now it's metastasized to the brain? Or is it primary brain cancer? Metastatic to you don't know where at that point. You see the difference? So you would say metastatic liver cancer, history of breast cancer status post mastectomy 5 years ago. Right now I'm going to be coding history of breast cancer because it's gone, absence of breast because you did the mastectomy, and I'm going to code secondary liver cancer. Did I say liver? Is that what it was in my example? Because then at that point it's metastatic. But if you say metastatic colon cancer, I'm like, well, okay, is it prime colon cancer and it's metastasized, you don't know where? Or is it metastatic colon cancer with an unknown primary? Because I can code all of that. But I want to be able to pick up the right metastatic and the right primary or the right history primary. You see what I mean? So your verbiage is different there. All right. Query is not a 4-letter word. When the documentation is unclear, we're going to have to stop the record and we're going to have to query you. And it's going to hold up the charge. Okay? And in a hospital, that's going to be a big deal. Okay? And let me explain. They've done end-to-end testing on I-10 for anybody that wants to be a part of the end-to-end testing, where they're submitting so many supposedly clean claims out the door to see how many bounce back, to see what the potential is for this. Whether even the insurance companies are handling it properly to get out the door and get back, okay? And what they're saying is they had an 80% clean claim go out the door in all these testings that they're doing, 80%. 80% sounds wonderful, but when you're talking 80% of 100 charts that go out the door, okay, that's 80, and then 20 are left in this queue somewhere, and we gotta figure them out. Well, let's flip the switch on October 1st, and let's throw out hundreds and hundreds of thousands of claims out the door, all across the country, and have 80% rate. And what's gonna happen to that 20% rate today? And then it's gonna compound tomorrow at 20%, and then the next day at 20%. And who's gonna work those? And where are those claims gonna go? They're gonna come back, and they're gonna have to figure out, okay, well, what's wrong with them? And it could be the insurance company's not ready for their stuff, and it could not be anything wrong with the facility at all. I know one hospital in town, they had 35 claims go out the door. 35 clean claims. Basically, the I-10 codes were pristine. Nothing was wrong with the codes. They were linked appropriately, they took their time, they made sure they were clean on the hospital side to go out the door. And guess what? Not all 35 got out the door correctly and back from the insurance company, even though there was nothing wrong with the hospital side. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of bugs to be worked out, and meanwhile, money's at stake, right? And it's going to compound daily by daily by daily as soon as that switch is flipped on October 1st. All right. So querying. What's a super bill? The super bill is what you'll see in a doctor's office, where like the different procedures that they do, flexible sigmoidoscopy, blah blah blah. All right. And then here's the diagnosis part. Okay. UTI, 599, carpal tunnel, whatever, it doesn't matter. And basically the doctor circles everything, checks the procedure that he did, okay? We're gonna learn these this afternoon, the E&M visits, okay? And then whoever the office staff is submits them electronically, and hopefully you get paid, right? Well, in I-9, here's your super bill. In I-10, that super bill is probably gonna be about 10 pages, because this right here is gonna be a crazy mess. Okay, you're going to have multiple codes for all the different injuries. Can you imagine a primary care doctor who sees everything? He's not just an orthopod or just a cardiologist. A primary care doctor can see anything. Can you imagine his super bill? Probably about 9-10 pages. All right. HIPAA. Basically it protects the patient's privacy. Any information is personal health information, the name, age, social security number. All right, ways to be HIPAA compliant. Don't discuss a patient with anyone unless it's in the performance of their duty. Do not leave medical records open for others to see. Don't overhear. I go into offices all the time, even when I'm a patient or I'm with my kids or whatever, and I see screens up, computer screens up with people's stuff on it. I shouldn't see that. That should have been closed down before that person walked out the door. I shouldn't be hearing people talking outside. I shouldn't hear somebody. I was in a colonoscopy office the other day because I was the designated driver for that one, and the woman comes in to talk to the husband. Yeah, she's fine. She's out of recovery now. I mean, she's in recovery. She didn't have any colon polyps. I don't need to hear that. That's that woman's history. I don't need to hear that. The whole entire waiting room, we all knew it. We're like clapping. Yeah, she's okay. I'm like, why do I need to hear that? So it's horrible. Close and lock your computer screens. Do not speak loudly. Shred documents. Verify who you're speaking to on the phone. That's why whenever you call somewhere, they're like asking you basically for blood. Okay, who are you? What's your mother's maiden name? What day were you born? I don't even know. It's like all these questions they ask you to prove who the heck you are, right? And we're going to hold this slide because this is important. So it's time for your all's break right now. So we'll give you 10 minutes.
I know.